Alright, so yeah, we're going to just quickly finish out the blinks, the squint, the brows, and then I'll show you guys how to kind of send it over to Maya and how to do kind of a quick animation test. It's really like you guys have done, I hope, stress tests with Charles, right, for full character rigs, yeah? Or partial character rigs? You do? No? Well, a stress test is basically when you kind of fire off everything to its extreme. So if you have arms and legs, you're moving it around, but with the face, we want to make sure it kind of goes through all the blend shapes. And I usually ask for there to be at least a little bit of overlap between blend shapes so I can sort of see what's happening. And that'll be mainly what I mark, is just looking at the stress test from Maya. But I'd like you to include the Zbrush file and the Maya file as well. Okay, so we've done the mouth blend shapes. I'm going to create the first of the new ones. Very straightforward, fairly easy, called the blink, of course. This will be both eyes at the same time. So usually, now I've got polygroups, I think. Yeah, polygroups. I'm going to just kind of isolate or mask very quickly this area. And then I'll switch to a draw brush just so I can kind of touch up the corners. I usually like to kind of leave the corners for the end, and I may in fact just shrink this mask a little bit. So I'm going to go to let me undo my masking adjustment. You can go to masking, and you can try to grow the mask so it focuses on a smaller region. Generally what I prefer to do, again with perspective off, if you take a look at the eyelids, and let's go to transparency mode for a second, you see the eyelids, they don't just kind of move down. I find they often actually rotate down. So if we go from the corner, and I'm holding shift while in a side view, right? Now this is not going to work to this degree, so I'm going to just play with the angles a little bit and see what I can do. I might have to reduce the mask as well a bit. So again, I'll grow the mask, and I'll see if I can get this to kind of rotate down a bit. So I'm going to just do something like this. So you're moving down, but you're kind of rotating and stretching the eyelid typically as it comes down. Looks a little funny, right? So I'm kind of rotating down. Again, I want to be careful with the corners of the eye, so I'm going to just very carefully switch back to my draw tool and just kind of protect those corners, because I usually don't want them to shift at all. So I'll go back to the rotate tool. Again, I'll just find an angle that sort of suits me and then pull it, yeah, kind of rotate it down like so. Okay. So I should be looking, I guess, at the edge loops, and maybe I'll just, again, touch up that masking just a bit and try one more time here. Rotate. Again, I like to try to get away with as much rotating in this case as possible. So I'll try to kind of vary the mask a little bit as I go. So I might blur the mask, shrink it, grow it, depending on what the situation kind of calls for. There, I think that's okay. Yeah, it's not too bad. So usually the upper eyelid tends to move the most. The lower eyelid will move a very, very small amount. So again, I'll just use the Move Select tool or Rotate tool, the Transpose tool, to quickly select and mask. I'll touch up the mask using the regular Draw tool, because I really just want to get in close to that lower eyelid. I don't need this huge area selected, so I'm going to just tighten that up a bit. And then I'll probably blur it, blur mask. In this case, we can stick with, like, since it's got such a small distance to travel, you can basically stick with the move topological is the one I would generally prefer to use. I'm just going to kind of pull that eyelid up, and again, we want to create a seal. There we go. So make sure it closes, make sure the eyelid isn't kind of visible, or sorry, the eyeball isn't visible from the outside. There we go. So I think that looks okay. I'm going to just, again, test it out, clear the mask, go back to my layers, which are here. There we go. And then we should be able to kind of test blink. I think that looks pretty good, actually, right?
Yeah.
It's pretty decent. Okay, so next up, I'll set the blink on this one to full strength. Go to Morph Target. I have one stored from something else. I don't care about it anymore. I'm going to delete it, store it, So I'm storing the blink. Go to layers, turn down the symmetrical blink, and now I'll just create a new layer and call it blink left. Or blink L is usually okay if you just put the letter L. So that will be his left. So I'm going to turn off symmetry, B for brush, M for morph. By the way, you can kind of memorize some of these combos because if you notice, whatever is left within a certain letter category, you see there's an O there above the morph. So you can go BMO, kind of funny. But then I can blend, morph this in right here. So that's how I quickly get the asymmetrical blink. That's done. So now I can get him to wink on one side. And I'll create a new layer, blink -R, or space is probably okay because I think ZBrush automatically puts an underscore. But anyways, so it's recording. Morph brush is still active. Morph that sucker in there. I think that's okay. Actually, I'm noticing a slight issue. I don't know that the eyelid's closing, so I just want to make sure. It might be a shading issue. I think it's a shading issue. Let's just double check. Yeah. You could also try to pinch. Sometimes I'll pinch these things together, but you don't want to alter the shape of the eyes or the eyelids too much. In any event, we'll just pretend that's okay. I'm going to move ahead. So now I've got the left and the right blink, which is good. Next up is the squint. So the squint is kind of here. Let me just find the areas of effect. So the areas of effect on the squint. Let's create a new layer. Squint. So the areas of effect are pretty much focused around the eyes, right? It does just kind of hit the brow region a bit. So this would be the area of effect. Okay. So what's basically happening there is the brow will kind of drop. So I'm going to go to, again, I might just stick with move topological in this case. And by the way, when you move, moving is happening kind of parallel to your view. So if you just pull down, you see you're pulling down from this view. Go to the right, you can kind of pull down maybe from a better point of view here. But what I also do as well, there's a little trick to the move tool. If you hold Alt, it pulls out from the direction that the polygon's are already facing, or the normal's direction. So anyways, yeah, let's kind of pull up the tops of the cheek. So usually if I do this from a front view, I'll kind of pull up, and then I may hold Alt to kind of puff them out a little bit. Same thing with the brows. Like I could kind of drop the outer to mid brow down and then hold Alt to kind of puff them out, because there is like a bit of a puffiness that happens there, a bulging that kind of happens there. And then I may use something like Damn Standard, just to kind of throw in like a little crease line here and here potentially. And then again, I may inflate a little bit just to kind of puff that stuff up. Again, I'll increase my intensity just a small amount, just to kind of pucker this. It's hard to see because it's not smooth, but so I'm going to turn off record. Come on. If we hit D, you can kind of get a preview of what's happening. So it kind of does like a temporary smooth, which is under geometry dynamic subdivision. But I wouldn't keep that on when you're working layers, but when you turn them off, if you wanted to kind of see what it might look like with Maya smoothing, you can do that dynamic subdivision. So you see that sort of squint, and if you kind of mix in a blink, and let's do the smile and the jaw open. It's looking a little weird.
Sincere. So angelic.
Yeah, let me tweak the teeth open there. Yeah, it looks a little stony. It's a little too eyes closed, right? Yeah, it's dialed back to sincerity. But you can sort of see like blank smile versus like that kind of adds a little intensity, right? I could probably inflate this area a little bit more. Like it probably needs to bulge out. This is what I was saying, by the way. You have to be very careful what's happening with the mesh. So I have this dynamic subdivision thing on. Make sure it's off when you activate layers or work with layers, because otherwise it'll reset the material on you. So I'm going to just go in and gently inflate just above. Again, let me record. Just above, like in the upper cheek, kind of just below the outer lower eyelids. So that way, yeah, when he kind of when we mix in the squint, we get that kind of that bulging effect, right? So it actually, yeah, it creates a kind of nice, right? It actually enhances the appearance of the smile. It really kind of adds a genuineness to that face. So. So that kind of softening of the eyes, right, closing them up a bit, maybe not too much, but yeah, without the squint, you know, it kind of loses something, right? There we go. So yeah, when we do these blend shapes, it really kind of adds a lot, and one sort of layer builds on the other, So again, let me go back to geometry. I'll turn off the dynamic subdivision. Oops, what happened there? Let's see. Okay, so next up, and again, you guys kind of see once you get through the mouth blend shapes can be the most challenging, but again, they don't necessarily have to take a whole lot of time either. You know, as long as you kind of are aware of how, you know, the kind of even in a cartoony character, how the skin and the flesh kind of moves around the teeth and the gums, and you are conscious of that, it's going to help you create good effective blend shapes, whether it's a realistic character or not. Now we got browse squeeze. So browse squeeze. Yeah, let's find this thing. For browse squeeze, it's basically this area right here. Okay. So what is essentially happening is the brows are bunching in. So they're pulling in towards the middle. I will tend to also either inflate. Inflate is kind of good in a way because it kind of can pucker things or puff things out. And if we do, again, if you guys have enough mesh at the low res, which is why I tended to recommend 5,000 plus polys, which this one is about 5,000. You know, if you go with a damn standard or something, let's say like this, maybe like right here, right, or maybe out here somewhere, right, on a couple of loops. You kind of want a little bit of like waviness, like corrugated cardboard kind of happening. So when the brows squeeze in, they also will bunch up and pucker and kind of puff out. So if we take a look, let's turn this off. I'll turn back on my dynamic subdivision so you guys can sort of see that, right? So if you take a look, right, the brows squeeze in. Again, the volume has to go somewhere. So they're squeezing in, but they're bulging out, right? You guys see that? I hope. Okay, so yeah, I probably could use a little more mesh in there at the low res, but this is kind of fine. And if you guys take a look, right, that actually adds a lot to the expression if we take a look at his face, right? With nothing else going on, he sort of looks a little more pensive, concerned, and so those things can be mixed into a lot of different expressions. So that's the brows squeeze, right? Pretty straightforward. What's next on my list? Brows squeeze. Brows mid up. So I'll create a new one. Undo. Again, I keep forgetting. Got to turn off any subdivisions or any weirdness, clear any masking. Yeah, the ZBrush layer system, like I said, very, very temperamental, unfortunately, but brows mid up. Brows mid up. Let me just turn this thing down. Oops, I just renamed this one, actually. This is brows. What's this? Brows squeeze. Okay. All right, yeah, brows mid up. So let's go and record. Brows mid up is actually a very similar area of effect to the brows squeeze. So it's the same kind of region, right? This area here. But we're kind of just raising the mesh up. Again, think of this as a bony ridge that is kind of here for the brows. So I will move this up, but the stuff that I move up will have to kind of slide along the surface a little bit, and the stuff that's here will probably need to puff or pucker out a bit. Again, I'm talking more about a realistic character. Again, you guys have a little more freedom and flexibility with the cartoonier characters. So let's just take a look at this. Yeah. Right, so we kind of want to, yeah, there we go. It's not bad. Again, we can play around a little bit here with the topology and the edge loops. You could put a little horizontal crease line there if you had enough mesh. In this case, I don't really, so I'm not going to bother with that. But so yeah, if we do this, we raise this up and then try to do a squeeze. You can you see how you can mix two together, and then even with the squint, and let's do like a little blink. You're like, I don't know what's going on right now. This is very suspicious. So again, I hope you guys see the benefit of this. Every new blend shape kind of builds on what's already been done and opens up the possibilities so much more. Okay, next one is browse mid down, I believe. Browse mid down. So again, there's a squeeze in the middle area, there's an up, and then there's a down, right? Okay, so on the down, let's just turn off any other blend shapes we should turn off because we want to just kind of work on each one in isolation. So go browse mid down, record. And again, same general area of effect. This one is kind of the angry shape, so. All right. So again, I want to kind of keep the slope of the brow here, or the bone. So I'm going to pull this stuff down. And I'm going to hold Alt and pull some of this out. All right, so it kind of creates a little kind of puckering, bulging. But again, we don't want to lose the brow shape underneath there. Just double check that this is working okay. All right, and I'm going to just bunch up the nose as well. So I'll take this and kind of pull this up. Again, pull it up and then hold Alt. And I may actually drop some of this down as well. So this will be kind of the angry modifier, right? So if you do this, let's say we, again, close the eyes. Where do we go? Blink a little bit. And we could add, what is it, the upper lip up, right? Kind of give them an angry face. Lower lip down, right? So it's amazing. Like I said, I love, that's kind of like my favorite part is seeing the thing come to life as you test and combine blend shapes together. It's really kind of a magical process. Okay, so we're getting close to done. What's the last few here? Browse. So browse outer up, or browse out up is what it's called. Not the best naming scheme, but browse outer or out up. So what that basically is let's just see here. That is the kind of, yeah, this area. So we're kind of focusing on this region here. Let's just encompass this. Actually, let's make sure this is not masked. There we go. All right, and if we control tap on that, actually I should probably mask a smaller region. So yeah, roughly about here. Flip the mask, control tap on it once. And so this is kind of like your surprise look. So I'll take the move brush, and by the way, there's a little trick in the move tool as well. So Alt pulls out in the direction of the normals. If you click and grab some mesh and hold Shift, it slides along the surface, which is perfect actually for these changes along the brow. So a lot of times you want the tissue to kind of slide along the underlying bony structure, right? He's looking kind of evil here, but so I'll grab, hold Shift to slide. Grab some more out here, hold Shift to slide, and remember I need to bring back the bony region here, so I'm going to puff this back out or pull this back out using Alt to kind of restructure that. So let me just test this again here. So again, you want to sort of look at this in profile and see what happens to the bony structure. Does it kind of seem like it's still there? Sort of. So I'm going to just pull some of this out a bit. And then again, test. There. So again, it's kind of sliding over, right, the bone underneath. I'm just going to bring back a little bit more here and maybe slide a little more of this stuff up here. So I'm going to take a bigger brush, click and drag, hold shift. So I really get a lot of action in the upper forehead too. Yeah, that's kind of cool. Again, if we play with, let's say, the jaw open, like usually this would be like a shocked face, like what? There we go. Maybe brows mid up. Yeah, that's kind of cool, right? It sort of works. Now, I think I've gone a little extreme, so I could keep this. I find it works really well at about 60%, maybe not at 100, but I might just leave it that way anyways, because you never know when you might want the latitude to maybe go a little bit further with an expression. So, okay, cool. As long as it works at 60% and up, I think you're okay. So that is it, actually. That is kind of the base set of blend shapes that I recommend you guys have, or that you are required to have, I should say, for this assignment. Next up for this thing is to send everything to Maya. So the way we do that is pretty straightforward. We're just going to go to Z plugin, Maya blend shapes. We're going to have everything. So I have, because I've got the teeth, yeah, maybe I'll just do visible actually. The eyeballs don't, I don't think the eyeballs have a low res set. There's no, yeah, I don't know that they have a low poly set. Yeah. Just take a quick look here. Okay, so maybe I'll do that. I'll try that. Okay, let's go back to Z plugin. You want to do all. For some reason I'm getting an error here, so I hope this will actually work. But and if you wanted to just focus on the head, that's okay, but you will need teeth for this as well. So I hope you have some teeth or gums. You're going to have to open and close them, so they'll just need the one blend shape. I'm going to go export blend shapes. And that's pretty much it. You'll see it rip through all the layers. And then it should send everything out, set it up neatly in your Maya, in a Maya scene, and then all you have to do is essentially animate through the blend shape. So what I recommend is roughly between like 10 and 20 seconds per blend shape, and I'd like them overlapping, particularly in the mouth region, so that maybe there's like 5 frames of overlap with the jaw open, the jaw wide, or the jaw open and the jaw narrow, or sorry, the mouth narrow. And that's basically it. So it'll probably be about a 200 frame, maybe 250 frame animation. It's just going to be a quick kind of test, and you're going to export it out as a play blast. So here's the blend shape tool, by the way. Okay, it's the blend shape panel. There we go. It's taking a while to open, but essentially you just hit key whenever you change the slider value. So that's that. Let's take a look at this guy a little closer. And if you expand it, you'll see below there's the teeth opening as well. So here, don't have a lot of screen real estate. So I'm going to just, I'm also going to turn off the wireframe display. I tend to like to turn it off in a lot of cases. So especially when I'm done modeling, I'll just turn it off. So this is under display, wireframe on shaded. Set it to none. You can always turn it back to reduced or something later, but and another little preference, if you know, I like to see this thing with mesh smooth on, just so I can kind of see what it may look like at render time, right, or in production. So, yeah, let me just scale this window down so I give myself some room here. So yeah, that's it. Basically, we can do key all to start. Key all to start. So I'll usually move ahead 5 frames. Let's say we crank up the, where is the jaw open? Okay. Oh, jaw opens at the end for some reason. So jaw open, key, I will open the teeth as well. Key. And Maya crashed. Yeah. So, like I said, I'll key this. I'll key all the stuff on the head. Usually I'll go ahead 5 frames. Let's say we key the jaw. Key that. Open up the teeth as well. Key that. Oh, don't crash, Maya. Why? All right. Okay. This is actually an important time to note something that I realized I forgot to do, and this could change everything. So when it comes to your models, you have to make sure the models are completely bug-free. Now, you may think your mesh, because it's sculpting fine in Maya or Zbrush, or it's modeling fine, that it looks fine, that it's okay. I forgot a couple of crucial steps here. Your mesh needs to have, in Zbrush, there's 2 good tools to make sure your mesh is kind of bug-free and clean and ready to work with. One is called Optimize Points, so that's under Modified Topology, Optimize Points. The other one is under Mesh Integrity, and you want to check the mesh and fix the mesh, again, to make sure there's no bugs or errors. You guys have seen, Maya 16 has some really horrible issues with corrupting or screwing up edge loops and vertices, and Zbrush on occasion screws things up, but it usually does a pretty good job of handling mesh. I can't really do this now because I would lose all the layers. If I lose all the layers, I have to redo all that work, right? So it's something you want to try to actually do at the beginning of the project. And I completely forgot about it this time, but so what I might do, I don't know if it's the case of the teeth subtool, the head subtool, if that's an issue. So I'm going to just try to go to the selected subtool and export the blend shape strictly for that first. So hopefully it's an issue maybe isolated with either smoothing or one of the other tools that is in the scene. So yeah, it's kind of like a problem with texturing too. Like if your model is screwed up and your UVs kind of look good, but then you start texturing and you realize there's a weird issue. If you fix the UVs, there's a good chance that you'll lose the texturing that you've done. Sometimes you can transfer textures and information from one mesh to another, but so it's important to always kind of do like a check mesh if you're in Maya, cleanup mesh, or yeah, if you're in ZBrush, to do that kind of optimize points. And yeah, I'm not sure what this guy's going to do, but let's try to key all again. Go ahead, jaw open, key. Go to frame 15, key, frame 20. So then I'll close and key. And actually, it's not a bad idea to kind of keep doing key all, because you don't want random morphs or random blend shapes to kind of pop up on you. So key all is a pretty good strategy. So yeah, let's say at frame, while the jaw is open, at frame 10, I'll do like key the mouth. So yeah, let's go to frame 5. Okay, frame 5, key all. Frame 10, key the mouth wide. So mouth wide, key. Oh, it's the head mesh is causing something to go wrong. Yeah, in this case, what I basically did is I selected the head mesh, went to cleanup, and just applied leaving settings basically default, except for these bottom options. I turned on everything except for the 0 map area. I cleaned up the mesh. And thankfully it puts this above the history inside the model, so it'll keep my my head intact, and it looks like I can kind of cleanly scrub through and animate, which is good. So anyways, get in the habit of keying all as you go, and I think every 5 frames, right? So we have 0 frame for the jaw, 5, it should open, so let me make sure it's keyed on 5. Keep it open for 10 frames. So 0 to 5, it's opening. From closed to open. From 5 to 10, or sorry, 5 to 15, it stays open. 15 to 20, it closes. So probably around frame 10, I will then mix in the wide. Again, you may want to watch how much this blends in, because it's a little extreme here. Let's turn off the wireframe again, so I want to look at that. It's a little too much there, so I'm going to just bring that back. So frame 10, wide. Let's do a little key all. So maybe on frame 20, key all. There we go. So it's just kind of quick. You're just kind of running through the blend shapes. So yeah, let's key this one at 0, actually, at frame 10. There we go. So there's a little bit of overlap. So frame 10 to 20, wide, and then I guess, yeah, frame 25, I'll go to 0 on that and key all. Grab the narrow, key all. So it transitions from wide to narrow. What is that? Frame 25. So I'll go to 35, key all. Frame 40, key all. So it gets kind of repetitive. Let's do the upper lip up while it's narrow. You can try that. So frame 30, key all. Frame 35, narrow is up. And I'll do the upper lip up. Again, I want to see the teeth in here as well. I should bring those over, but so what's going to wind up happening is your animation will basically look something like this, right? Let me just turn on the option here. I'm playing it at half speed, by the way, just so you guys can see. Right? It's going to kind of cycle through with some overlap, the mouth blend shapes and then the eye blend shapes. It's a stress test, right? Just to show off what the face is doing, what it can do. I should be able to actually run this in smooth as well, so it'll play back okay now. I've got a little issue here. I think the normals are kind of going inside out. So that might be something I would go back to Zbrush to fix to make sure the lips aren't kind of going through each other. Or let me just double check something here in the modeling. Mesh display. Let me unlock the normals, mesh display, and just say conform or mesh average, something like that. Yeah, I think it's the, that looks rough. Set to face, there we go, and then I'll do soften edge. Yeah, I don't know what's happening there. Maybe there's a material issue too. So if I just assign a new blend, that might help too. Maybe? No. Yeah, so there's something weird with this little poly area. Might need a little fix there. Just check. Yeah, there's actually missing faces for some reason. That's not a good thing. But anyways, yeah, I think that's probably the glitch that was carrying over from Zbrush. There's something wrong with that corner of the mouth, but anyways, so that's the basic process. You know, you want to key all and just kind of keep track. So go from no blend shape on one particular, no amount on a particular blend shape, move 5 frames, go to 100, keep that for 10, and then key back down to 0 on the last 5. So there's about 20 frames per motion in, you know, the jaw opening, the mouth, the various eye and eyelid shapes, and I want to see them kind of interact with each other a little bit. So as long as there's like about a 5-frame overlap between the various mouth blend shapes and the brow shapes and eyelid shapes, then it'll help kind of get a sense of what the overall character should be doing. Some people, they go a little further and they do quasi-complete expressions, but again, the stress test part should be one of the quickest parts. You know, do it in an hour or less, right? Don't kill yourself trying to make it like a real polished facial animation.